What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to Culturally Damaged. We are here live at Bill Cosby Studios in lovely Clearwater, Florida. It's 75 degrees and sunny where we are. I don't know about you, but it is a nice day, and it is draft time. Coming up tonight, finally, the draft is taking place, and we're going to see who our beloved Buccaneers are going to take with number 7 overall. Dan, have you come to any conclusions about what's going to happen tonight?
I have a feeling that the Bucs are going to F this up. That's my actually no, that's not true. Yeah, it sounds. I'm hoping that we trade out of the 7th pick. Is my hope. So,
who would you like at number 7?
Buffalo's number 12 and number 23 pick is who I would prefer. But if we're picking at 7, I am really hopeful that the offensive guard from Notre Dame is available. So that would be my. If we have to pick at number 7, that's who I would like to see. I think there's a realistic shot, at least a 50-50 shot, that he would be available. So,
I think he will be available at 7, but I don't think we'll take him. I don't think that will be the pick. I think the defense is still. The defensive backfield is still going to be the biggest issue right now to cover, and it's a tough skill position to get, and I think they're going to have to get it early with either Derwin James or Minkah Fitzpatrick very early on in the draft.
See, I would think though that they could probably, if they traded with Buffalo, and they only moved back 5 spots, they probably could get if Buffalo traded one of those players at the 12th pick. So.
Yeah, it's very possible. In fact, their need at defensive back, and there being a couple that are good enough, as in Fitzpatrick and James. Yeah, I think they could. I think the teams ahead of them, there are a couple of teams, though, that do have the need as well. The Chicago Bears need a defensive back. Do they get Derwin James first before us? If they do, are we okay with that and getting Minkah Fitzpatrick? Jason Light said this week that he really liked Fitzpatrick. I don't know, it might have been a smokescreen, but he was talking a lot about his visit here, the fact that he's very versatile. He can play safety. He can come up and play in the slot. He can play the number 1 DB. He's very versatile, and he's a good character guy.
No, I don't know. It just seems like most people, not that I know anything special, but most people seem to think that there's 3 really outstanding players at the top of this draft, plus the quarterbacks. And, I really am only interested in 2 of those outstanding players, only because we're picking so high. So that would be Bradley Chubb or Nelson. If neither one of those 2 are there, I'm hoping that we trade back a little bit. But like you said, if we trade back, I would be thrilled if they would pick some of the defensive backs. And I don't have a problem if... if we don't get Nelson, I don't really have a problem if the entire draft consists of defensive players and a running back.
Now, am I correct when I'm seeing the draft here that the Jets and the Colts, did they trade or are they we talked about last week, I guess, that they could trade. But the Jets are still number 3 overall, right? So you got 2 New York picks out of the first 3. 2 New York, Cleveland and New York have the first 4 picks, basically. You got Cleveland, New York, Cleveland. So I think we agreed that Cleveland needs a quarterback. I mean, they get one every year, right? It's
something
annual quarterback pick for Cleveland.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to. And I was just because there's a little asterisk, and maybe the trade with, the Indianapolis trade was a trade. Yeah, the Jets already did trade. Is that what you were saying?
Okay, yeah, because I think I predicted that last week.
Yeah, that was.
I think that did happen. Maybe
that may have actually that happened a while ago because I remember that was the Indianapolis and the Jets trade because I remember a while ago because people were saying, well, why are the Jets trading up so high? Like because when they don't know exactly who they're actually going to get.
Well, they know they need a quarterback. Yeah. The Colts don't need a quarterback in theory. They don't want one right now. They don't think that's the direction to go. They'll get one maybe later on in the rounds, but not in the first round. They want to take this first pick.
But usually teams don't
bolster
that
defense.
They don't make that trade until you know like who's going to be there. Because for all the Jets know that essentially
there are three quarterbacks really that are
4 according to
Yeah, 4 if you take what's his name from Louisville?
Baker.
Well, Louisville's quarterback too.
Well, so who did you take out? There's Josh Allen, Sam Darnold,
Rosen,
and Mayfield.
That's
and
4. And then I think
Lamar Jackson would be
you
5.
also have Lamar Jackson.
Yeah,
and I think Lamar Jackson is a legitimate quarterback in the NFL. I really do. He is so talented, and he was kind of like came from the same mold that we saw Cam Newton come from at Auburn. He was unbelievable, but people didn't think that he could be a professional quarterback because they didn't think that talent to be able to run the ball translated into the NFL. And in some situations it doesn't. But if he's kind of groomed the same way that Cam Newton was, he has the ability. He has a rocket arm, and the guy is a smart guy. There's no doubt about that. I think he could potentially be the steal of the draft, really, if he turns out. But I've seen a lot of people saying now that Baker Mayfield may go number 1 to Cleveland. That seems to be the consensus. At least Mel Kiper is taking.
It sounds very Cleveland-like. It sounds like the Johnny Manziel. And not that this guy is terribly like Johnny Manziel, but he also is kind of like when I hear people talk about it a little bit, they'll talk about his bravado and they want to see his moxie, all this kind of stuff, and they don't talk about like his accuracy problems. And actually, I think he's more accurate than I think some of the other guys.
I think that's kind of his strength.
It's just
his
that he didn't have the talent coming out of high school.
No, he didn't. He's not 6'6" with a rocket arm. But take for instance, and I hate to make an example, but Marshall's quarterback is in the draft. He may or may not get drafted, but he's 6'5", 6'6". 220 pounds. The guy's got a rocket for an arm. And so when you look at him on paper, I mean, he looks tremendous. He actually threw for a ton of yards in 3 years at Marshall, coming out early, probably needed the one more year to stick around. But on paper, the guy looks phenomenal. But if you watch him and you've seen him play throughout his whole career, you know that he kind of lacks that grit that it takes. And that's the kind of bravado that someone like Baker Mayfield has, that you really just it's an intangible, and you hope that he's going to be a winner. But I mean, the guy was a winner, even more so than Johnny Manziel.
Well, the only problem is wins in college don't relate to wins in the NFL, and Mr. Tebow is one of the prime examples.
They certainly do not, but I think it is certainly a factor that you have to consider: is does someone have that will to win? That can will his team to a championship or to a win. For the Cleveland Browns, just let's get one win. But it's not everything. It certainly isn't. Just the wins aren't enough. If that were the case, then Tim Tebow would
or
be
Alabama's
great.
quarterbacks would
or any
be
Alabama
superstars. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
But they just don't depend on their quarterback. They build from within. Kind of like you talk about a lot when we're on the show. Is you build your interior lines on both sides strong enough to where nobody else has really any pressure to do much.
And the other, the one can't, I don't know. Did you hear the reports today about Mr. Allen with some of the racial tweets from back when he was like 14, 15 years old, and people are trying to hold that against him now?
I did just read that, but I think that it's been known for a while. Twitter didn't just come out; it's been there for a while. When you start to question someone's character because you're going to invest hundreds of millions of dollars into them, I think I would consider that too, especially considering that we blackballed a player for kneeling down during the anthem to protest police brutality. If you're going to do it on one side, I think you kind of have to do it on the other too, right?
Well, but what do you think, though, about going back to a 14 or 15-year-old's Twitter and holding that person accountable? I mean, not obviously we hold everybody needs to be held accountable for their own actions and their words, but as far as someone who's 14, 15 years old, like how accountable do we hold that 14, 15-year-old now that it's been 6 or 7 or 8 years later?
I don't think it's a fairness issue. I think it's an issue of your investment. If you're going to invest in a kid or a man who has a past, it's just like if you're buying stock, man. It's not. I don't really it's not a fairness issue. If it was a fairness issue, it's a business issue. So if I'm a team or general manager and I'm saying, hey, man, we're going to take our first pick, we don't really often have first picks, so we have a pick very early in the draft, we could take this quarterback. We need to look into everything in his past to find out if he's going to be somebody that we can count on. Maybe they didn't vet Ryan Leaf enough, because look what happened with Ryan Leaf. San Diego Chargers put their entire franchise on the line for him. And see what happened. Ricky Williams, see what Mike Ditka did to go out and get Ricky Williams. Maybe they should have vetted what Ricky Williams was doing when he was 14 or 15, because maybe past actions are the best predictor of future actions. And I think they have every right in the world to look into someone's past if they're going to invest in him. I think they do. You'd do that if you were hiring someone too, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure I would go back to when they were 14 now. That's my only thing is, like, I think of myself. Now, look, I never did them, but you start thinking, like, God, if they had this stuff when we were 14, like, would I have said asinine things or stupid things? Because I know they were. I don't, as we know, that my memory is not the best. But when I think back to those, I'm sure I said things that were inappropriate to my friends. I'm sure and who knows what I would have put on social media had there been social media. And he was probably one of the, you think like 8 years ago. I mean, social media was relatively new. And so, now today we say, oh, watch what you put on Twitter. And I'm sure today he would watch what he said.
Think about this, though. And if you're a team and you're looking at this kid and you know that the majority of your players on your team are African-American, and once he gets to the team, you don't make a big deal out of it as a general manager, but once he gets to the team, it comes out that this was said. How is he going to be treated in the locker room? How is he going to be respected by their players? Now, is it fair that they may mistreat him or disrespect him as a leader of their team just because of something he said when he was 15 years old? No, probably not. In fact, some of the players are probably mature enough not to do that. But you have to consider that, the fact that some players may not follow his lead because they don't believe in him and they think that he might be this closet racist. Yeah.
Well, and now the mock draft that we're looking at, they have him actually going number 1.
He's a great player. I mean, he really is. And don't get me wrong. Let me be clear. I don't think socially that he should be blasted on social media and everything else and embarrassed. But because all of us have done stupid things when we were kids, like you said. But from a business standpoint, I do understand why they're going to look into all that. From a social standpoint, I think it's very wrong. It's unfair. It's hypocritical. Nobody's perfect. Should he have to be accountable for his actions? Yes, absolutely. But he was 15, 14 years old. If he's done anything more recent than that, let me know. But I don't think that's right. But unfortunately, that's the way it works. Yeah. He's going to be socially shamed on social media, and that's just how it's going to have to be.
And now, what because obviously it's different, but it was similar, not similar accusations or anything. But obviously, when Jameis was drafted number 1. There were the accusations that he had sexually assaulted somebody. I think we can all say at least that, the crab legs, some of these things, that he did some pretty, I think it's even a bad decision because I think there was I don't know if it were proven or anything, but I think the story, at least with Jameis, was that he may have had consensual relations with this woman. But that there may have been other people in the room that may have videotaped and participated in some fashion. And those are the kind of things that you say, look, there's nothing illegal or technically wrong, but it's kind of like a bad choice at that age. Like, why do you have, I know these things go on. I mean, it's college, and college kids do stupid things, and college, boys and girls do stupid things in college. But it's just the same kind of thing, though. It's like, look, he was still drafted number 1. And so it was one of those things that, we had our concerns. And obviously the Bucs vetted whatever they're going to do, and apparently this is what Cleveland is doing. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure even these teams probably knew about this a long time ago, and they just questioned
I would say they probably did. I'd say it leaked out because they probably didn't want it to be known, but they knew it would. And so when people question them about whether or not they're going to take a player like that, they're going to have a reason. The thing with Jameis, and I don't think a lot of people understand from a legal standpoint kind of what went down with the whole Jameis thing. Not the current situation. Mm-hmm. I'm not really sure if there is any criminal legal matters going on there. The NFL is doing an investigation, but I don't think there's any criminal matters. But as far as what happened at Florida State, it was reported by a student at Florida State who happens to be from Pasco County here in the Tampa Bay area, that this sexual assault happened, that there were other people involved, there were witnesses. The police did not make an arrest. They did not arrest Jameis Winston because they never had probable cause to believe that a rape had occurred. And this happens all the time in cases like this because they get late reported sometimes. The rape kit can't be done, and if there was sex at all, you don't have any evidence to show whether or not it was consensual. You know what I'm saying? So you can't use DNA evidence to show it because it might have been consensual. Yeah. So they send it over to the state attorney's office. The state attorney's office looks at it, and what the decision that the state attorney's office has to make is based on the evidence that has been presented to us by law enforcement. Do we honestly believe in good faith that we can prove beyond a reasonable doubt that non-consensual sex took place? Mm-hmm. And the decision that they made, based on the evidence they had, whether it had been inconsistencies by the alleged victim, or whether it be by just the weakness of the evidence that was presented on Jameis Winston, the state felt that they could not move forward in that case. And so they did not establish that Jameis Winston was innocent, because that's not what they do. But they did establish that they could not prove beyond a reasonable doubt that this actually happened. So to all those people that think that he was acquitted, he was not. And all these people that think that he was guilty, you don't know that. We'll never know. So was he accused? Yes. But a lot of famous people get accused. We see the presidents getting accused on a daily basis now of people who are saying that he had sex with them. Our friend Bill Cosby was actually, I hate to change the subject, but he was found guilty today.
Was he?
Of 3 counts in his retrial. He was found guilty of 3 counts of sexual assault, I believe it was. This is, I believe, civil court. Actually, maybe not. He actually has been convicted of all counts of aggravated incident assault, and he has been ruled by the judge to stay at home with a GPS device for the time being. 80-year-old Bill Cosby, TV icon, convicted on all 3 counts of aggravated assault.
So much for picture pages.
Picture page. Yep. Old Bill Cosby, man. He used to really lecture all the other comedians. He used to really give it to them for using curse words. And, boy, they're going to let him have it now. And, apparently this happens all the time. These are just the 3 people that they can probably catch within the statute of limitations.
Yeah.
But Mr. Cosby may be going away for the rest of his life. He may be joining the likes of
what was that football player
Sandusky.
Well, now what was that football player that was roofing women? He played for several teams and was doing this around all over.
Was it like Eugene Robinson or something?
Could have been, but I mean, it just seems like.
Sorry, if you're Eugene Robinson, it wasn't you. I'm sorry. I didn't mean anything by that.
Please no libel. No, we just went over that last week.
I remember he was caught with a prostitute at Super Bowl. I remember that. That was not a good.
I don't know that. I don't think it was him. I think it was somebody else.
I'm sorry, Eugene. Yeah, that was you.
You got enough problems, Eugene, but I think it was But that was, and it was just you kind of think about it, just like Cosby. You would think why? Because I'm sure women. There's got to be plenty of women that were throwing themselves at these people, and it's pick the ones that are throwing themselves at you instead of drugging. there's,
I don't get it. I really don't get it because.
I mean, hell, you're just an attorney in Clearwater, and you got women throwing them at yourself sometimes. I mean, much less a professional athlete.
Yeah, exactly. That happens all the time. We literally have to lock the door during the show because of this problem that we have. I don't know. I think it's the complex where you are invincible. You can't get in trouble. There's nothing bad that can happen to you. You can do whatever you want. Why should I have to throw on my Bill Cosby charm when I can just put a pill in a drink? I don't get it. I don't think that they think these things through, obviously. But yeah. Actually, I had a chance to meet Bill Cosby once, and he was very nice, and I got to actually introduce him at a show in Huntington, and it meant the world to me because he was such a figure such a fatherly figure. You know, it was right after the Cosby Show. I was in college, and so you know, a lot of us were kind of raised on Bill Cosby. When we were little, it was the picture page and all that stuff, and then
the Cosby Show,
the Fat Albert, and then the Cosby Show. And when you got a little older, it was on for so long. You know, I could really relate to that family, even though I'm not black and live in Philadelphia, and my parents aren't doctors and lawyers, but. You know,
everything else was pretty much the same.
Everything else was the same, right? But yeah, it sucks, man. That's sad to see, but it's really sad for the people who had to endure his actions. That's just that's a shame, man. That's terrible. I don't think he's gonna make it too long in the old big house.
The what was that? What was the F me in the ass prison or something, or what was that from Office Space?
Oh, the federal.
Trying to keep it, yes, pound me in the prison, yes.
Yes, he's
trying to keep it clean for our listeners here.
I don't think Bill's going to federal prison. I don't think I think he's going to state prison, the Pennsylvania State Prison. Do they call that the pen?
It says no.
I mean, it's a state pen. It's Pennsylvania, so why would it be the pen?
We have a listener here that feels that you would have gotten Mr. Cosby off. So
I
quite high praise.
I don't know if I'd have got him off, but I might have got him acquitted. Let's just say that. I would have been way too sleepy. But getting back to the draft, I think a smooth transition to that would have been to make some type of Bill Cosby played sports at Temple. Maybe move it that way since we just kind of jumped around, but that didn't work out.
Because the Temple is going to have so many players drafted in this draft as well.
Moving back to the draft, Temple's got some great prospects. They actually might. I don't know. I don't think they have any first round picks that are expected to go early. But looking here at Kuiper's picks, they're pretty similar to the ones that I made last week. Maybe I saw them, and that's why I picked them that way. But
is that who's this mock draft is by Kuiper?
Well, I didn't have – this is Kuiper's draft, and I'm looking at it now. But he has Mayfield going first. I did not have Mayfield going first.
I don't know about Kuiper.
Yeah, I don't like Kuiper, honestly. I mean, that's his job is the draft. Like, that's all he does.
Well, this one's by White. But he's wrong, like, way more often.
Yeah.
You or I are almost better at this picking draft thing.
He doesn't know. His hair's awful. Like I don't like the guy's hair.
I try not to make comments about people's hair. So.
Well, I mean, he's got a really smug attitude about being the draft analyst for ESPN. And if you're listening, Mel, we'd like to invite you on our show and go toe to toe on draft knowledge, because I think that we're running a pretty good draft show here in the last couple of weeks.
Well, his little boy McShay, his little mini me. I mean, how the hell did he even get?
I like McShay. He's kind of like the Mel Kiper in Waiting, right?
Oh.
In case Mel Kiper drowns in his own hair grease.
Well, speaking of this, the little youngin there, the millennial picker. He's probably not. He's probably older than us. But what's the deal with these people wearing tennis shoes in their suits on SportsCenter? I didn't notice. Actually, I guess I did when they're standing up. McShay does that.
Well, they do those little demonstrations out on the little field.
Not McShay.
They have McShay doesn't. Well, he's
like 5 foot nothing.
He just wants to be one of the guys.
I mean, look, I'd love to do it. I'm thinking, can I get away with wearing tennis shoes?
Are you kidding me? Can you get away with wearing tennis shoes? You literally had on gym clothes yesterday. I thought you were here to work out yesterday. I thought you had mistaken this place for the gym yesterday.
Hey, I had to put mulch. I got a new sign up there. I was digging post holes and throwing mulch.
I'll give you credit. You did. You got a nice sign now. If you're driving down Ponce de Leon, you can see our sign. Dan put up a nice sign for both of us that has the areas we practice in.
Yeah. Now, granted, I don't know what to say about every other day that I'm not wearing a suit.
Yeah,
in here.
You really can't.
But yesterday,
account for
that's what I was
those.
doing.
So one day you have an excuse for. I don't know. These guys, man, they get on TV, and we're just jealous because they get paid to do what we take time out of our day to do. And we're actually costing us money probably right now doing this.
Yeah. But that's how much we care about our listeners, because we do this for you guys. Even though
we're volunteers, man.
Ourselves.
We're volunteers. I mean, and I think we're better than they are.
Kuiper. So here we have a very enthusiastic listener here.
Who is it?
It's our detective friend.
Oh, okay.
Better hair, Kuiper or Barry Melrose? Here was his question.
Oh, man, that's a good question. Mullet versus slick back Goodfellas haircut.
I'd have to probably say Melrose because I think there's a lot of work that goes in. That's a lot of hair.
Well, he basically just takes everything from the sides and then just slicks it back, and then it's a party in the back.
I was going to say, what is it? Corporate? What is it? The
it's
office
business,
in the front?
It's business in the front and it's party in the back. Yeah, I got to...
Mel just looks like plastic hair or something.
Being a West Virginian, I got to go with the mullet.
The mullet, yeah.
Yeah, the mullet. The other guy's Oklahoma State head coach. He's got... he had what resembled a mullet.
That's a Joe Dirt mullet.
He had what resembled a mullet a few years ago, and people were, making mullet jokes. So what does this guy do? Most people would go and cut their back of their hair and be like, sorry about that. That's my bad. I let it go a little bit too far in the back. Next thing you know, about 2 years later, he's Joe Dirtin all the way down here. He's Kid Rockin' on the sidelines, and he's just embracing it. And you got to love it, man. That's awesome. Anybody that can wear a mullet these days. Did you ever have a mullet?
I did have a rat tail.
Yeah, I had a rat tail.
It's pretty embarrassing now, but back in the 80s, I think it was the 80s, I had a rat tail.
Yeah.
In high school.
I mean, everybody had a rat tail.
Maybe it was 80, might have been the early 90s.
I think you got beat up in school if you didn't have a rat tail when I was there.
Wow.
Did you ever have stripes? Did you ever?
I don't think I had stripes. I did have cubs.
Oh, somebody wrote it in your head.
Yeah, but I had like that little.
Was it
I had
squared
that little
or
wrinkle.
Curved?
Curved. I had that little wrinkle, and somebody thought it was cube.
Oh, the hot dog! You got the hot dog wiener back there on the neck.
That does not sound good. No,
kind of lumps back.
There's a wrinkle. We'll just call it a wrinkle.
Now you don't see it enough to know what it looks like, but when you go like this, it's
yeah. So I did it before I went to soccer camp over the summer, so it wasn't like a school time. I'm walking into school with Cubs in the back of my head.
Is this your first or second year of college?
No, sir. No.
All right. Well, I had stripes.
Quentin had stripes.
Stripes were the stuff, man. I actually had the MC Hammer stripes for a while. That actually started here on the side, and then they worked their way down, and then met in the back.
Now, did you wear the pants?
I did wear the pants for a while. Lots of room.
Those remind me of those Zuba pants.
That the athletes used to wear. Some people still wear them at the gym. The weightlifters sometimes still wear them. They're free.
Which I am now. I mean, do you consider me to be a weightlifter because I went to the gym this week and I lifted some weights? Sure, man.
if it helps, whatever.
But I did get to the. I was happy I got to the gym for the first time. Well, I mean, I've been exercising, but it's the first time actually lifting weights in a while. So
like my old friend Todd used to say, the last gym I was in moved to Atlanta.
Yeah.
All right, Mel Kiper's second pick. He went along with me this year. Finally, he's getting smart. Saquon Barkley, who I think is a once-in-a-generation pick. I think the Giants got to pick him. You have the big three then. You got Barkley, you got Odell Beckham, and you got an old aging dinosaur quarterback who has won 2 Super Bowls.
I mean, I'm okay with the Giants doing it because of what we talked about last week. So if you're going to keep Eli Manning, you might as well draft Barkley because you're saying you're going to go for it. If you take a quarterback, you kind of start to end up in that old situation of Favre and Rodgers and some of these other situations where you've Alex Smith and what's his face McCombs or something or whatever.
But the other side of that argument is kind of your argument that you have to you build your team around your interior linemen, and with the
or
Giants,
your franchise quarterback.
Well, yeah, but both of the Giants' Super Bowls as of late, and probably every Giants Super Bowl has probably been built on defense. I mean, whether it be Lawrence Taylor, whether it be Michael Strahan, whether it be what's his name, John Paul Pierre, whatever that just traded here.
JPP?
Yeah, JP. How do you say his name?
Jason
Paul Pierre.
Pierre Paul.
Jason Pierre Paul.
I probably could have said it just fine if you didn't F it up to start with.
But yeah, those were propagated. All those Super Bowls were built on defenses. So what if you're the Giants? You say you go out and you get Bradley Chubb as your second pick, and you build around him on your defense, and maybe you go that way. But I don't know. I just think that Barkley is the choice of a new generation.
The only team in the top 5 or so that I think should take him would be the Giants, and it's only because they're keeping their quarterback. And they think that the Giants at least think that maybe they're closer to a Super Bowl. So if I were anybody else, I would either trade out of that pick or take somebody else.
Well, the Broncos have number 5. Do the Broncos need a quarterback? I mean, is that your take?
I believe the Broncos do need a quarterback. Yes.
You don't think
they have 3 quarterbacks or so, which is nothing.
I mean, they do. They've taken picks in the first round with a quarterback out of Memphis. They took a quarterback. They've got other quarterbacks that they got. The guy started last year, and then didn't they sign back Peyton Manning's old
Osweiler?
Asweiler,
whatever.
Astwatler.
Yes.
Yeah. That was a good decision he made, wasn't it, to leave there in the first place? What a weird story.
Got a lot of money.
What a weird story, though. The guy leaves the Super Bowl champion team where he was going to be anointed the new quarterback by John Elway. Mm-hmm. And he gets a chance to take over for Peyton Manning, the Hall of Famer, first ballot Hall of Famer. And he takes the money, goes to Texas, and sucks.
Well, and also don't forget the head coach never actually met with him before they signed him.
Yeah.
And I don't even think the head coach actually liked him. So
apparently there's a lot not to like from what I've heard. And then I think he ended up with the Browns, right? Didn't he go to the Browns for a while?
Yeah, they traded I think that's maybe how the Browns actually got one of these picks this year is because I think they took on that because obviously the big thing was his salary.
Yeah,
and the Browns were willing to take on that huge contract.
Yeah, that huge tag that they had on him in Houston, just because he was a backup to Peyton Manning, came in a couple of games during that year and did well. But to me, it's amazing that Nick Foles doesn't have the same kind of value on him. But maybe a guy like Osweiler hurt Nick Foles' chances of actually getting there. But let's face it, though. Osweiler didn't win the Super Bowl. Osweiler didn't get him to the Super Bowl. He won a couple of games that year on a good team that had a great defense. Nick Foles used his arm and won a Super Bowl game. But still, the Eagles could not get what they wanted for him.
I'm not sure the Eagles really wanted to get rid of him because, you start to, I think there's still some question whether what's-his-face is going to start the season. If he's going to be healthy enough to start the season. And then even if he does, people come back from injury. There's no guarantee that they're going to be quite the same they were to begin with. So I think they're a little hesitant. They're like, look, we're going to get the moon for him or we're not getting rid of him.
And that's what they said. I mean, that's what the coach said. We had a number, and if we get it, we get it. If we don't, we don't. But, man, there's so many teams out there that need quarterbacks. And to think that Nick Foles was on the verge of retirement when he was cut by the Rams, and he has this new emergence in his career, but he got pretty good money. They gave him not what he thought he might get this year, but he's still going to be backup, maybe starter on the Super Bowl champions team, who's bringing back a lot of good people. So, if they need a quarterback, Denver's probably, I think, going to get Josh Allen. Because he's a Wyoming guy. I don't think he's going to go that early.
If Cleveland doesn't take him. But, and I was listening to some of the stuff about Josh Allen, and some of the biggest criticisms were just that he, when we talk about Baker Mayfield being a winner, Josh Allen is kind of the opposite. They talked about, he had 4 games where he was sub 100 yards passing, and he just didn't have what people would not obviously he wasn't a Heisman Trophy runner, but he didn't have those Heisman moments where he led his team from 21 down in the fourth quarter to win.
Yeah, or like Josh Rosen.
Yeah, and because even Rosen, people would say, well, Rosen hasn't had the greatest career, but he still 35 points or something he overcame.
Yeah, he showed a lot of wherewithal in coming back in a couple of different games where he didn't give up. One of them, I'd change the channel, and I rarely do that. I'd change the channel. I don't like West Coast college football really anyway, but I was watching it to watch him, and I was like, man, this guy's not very good. He's really not stepping up to the occasion. I forget exactly who they were playing, but I ended up finding out later that night at SportsCenter that they won. How the world did that happen? But yeah, he played great in the fourth quarter.
And Wyoming is not. It's not like they're in a great conference and they got to play great teams. So you should be able to look pretty good.
Apparently, his team was pretty bad. But who made a point to tell everybody that his team was bad? He did.
Yeah.
And when we talk about people like Baker Mayfield. And their attitude, I guarantee you he would never, he couldn't complain that his team was bad, but I don't think he would ever complain his team was bad. His teammates loved him because he fought for them. But on the other side of that, you got a guy like Allen who made comments time and time again. And I'll remember I wasn't playing, with the best team.
Yeah.
That bothers me when you'd say something.
What was
like
that? Was it my girl Bunchin?
Mm-hmm.
I wish that said that Tom Brady doesn't throw the ball to him. My husband doesn't throw the ball to himself. I think she made one of those comments or something.
Yeah.
Because his numbers were down, and she made the comment that he doesn't throw the ball to himself.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the same
Brady.
thing,
Yeah.
Well, Brady's cool. I mean, Brady didn't say it; it was his wife.
Yeah.
But it would be like Brady saying that, I can't throw it to myself.
Yeah, I don't think.
You don't throw your teammates under that like that,
No, he's smarter than that, and
not this guy Josh Allen though.
I'm not sure that Allen is. He made some comments, and I know he was just kind of fighting for his own draft survival because it was starting to come down on him. Things like you were saying, but you can't say that. You have to let other people say it. You be a professional. The consummate professional all the time, and that's what those guys have to do. And it reminds me of a couple of years ago when, what's his name from West Virginia, who played for, and Quentin, if you're listening, you probably help, that plays for the Giants now. They actually started a couple of games last year when they benched Peyton Manning.
Geno Smith.
Yeah, Geno Smith. Remember in the draft a couple of years ago when he wasn't getting drafted and he was just sitting there and he was getting mad, and there were probably teams who were looking at him saying, "Let's get him," and then they looked at his reactions when he wasn't getting picked and going, "Oh man, what if he throws an interception? He's gonna cry. He's gonna cry in the car." Oh, Friday reference.
He reminds me of what's his name from the Bears, Cutler.
Oh,
and just
Jay
that
Cutler,
they have
just the whole whiny
it's
attitude.
their look.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing. Like they have a bad look on their face. If they're not happy, like it just shows, and they have like this sourpuss look.
And sometimes you get a player like that, and their teammates love him, and they're like, "Hey, no, don't get him wrong. He's great in the huddle. He's great in the locker room." But clearly, Geno Smith wasn't that guy, considering the fact that one of his players broke his jaw in the locker room over like a $20 bet.
Yeah.
So probably not that guy. Not a high character, good locker room dude. But I thought it was hilarious when he got his jaw broken head south the year. It wasn't so funny for the franchise.
No. And that's the other thing. Like we have the Jets and we have the Browns up at the top of this draft. And it's been rumored that the Jets were also interested in Baker Mayfield, and so I don't know. I'd be really concerned about Baker. I don't know that any of these quarterbacks are. It's kind of nice because when Jameis and Mariota were drafted, now who knows whether they'll actually turn out to be the quarterbacks people thought, but I think there was quite a consensus from most people that either one of those two quarterbacks were truly franchise quarterbacks. And it was clear. I don't think we quite have that in this year's draft.
It's possible. I mean, none of them really stand out like Jameis did, or
because I think you could look at 10 different drafts and you'll probably find each one of them as the number one pick.
That's
or
true.
different team. You know what I'm saying? Like just different teams, different people.
I mean, if I had to gamble on the 5 quarterbacks that we just mentioned, Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, Jeremy Rosen, and Lamar Jackson. If I had to gamble on one of those, the first person I probably would pick, and I wouldn't be super excited about it, but I probably would take Baker Mayfield just because of the fact that he's proven to be able to play in a major conference and win at a big level, and he does have that moxie. Now, the downside is if you take Josh Rosen and he fails, everyone's got the same thing to say. Why in the world did you go out and get a guy from Wyoming?
Yeah.
We knew he was going to suck. This is Tim Couch number 2. He played for a crappy program. He didn't put up that great of numbers.
But he played in the best conference in the league, though.
The best conference in the league, yeah. You're talking about Tim Couch?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he did, but he played for a terrible team. And then the same thing with Darnold. I mean, not Darnold, but with Jeremy Rosen. He just doesn't stand out as being a franchise quarterback, even though he played the Big 12. He just seems kind of scrawny, almost like Sam Bradford. Like if you hit him, he might break him.
Yeah.
Darnold, I think would be a safer pick than those other two, and I think Lamar Jackson would be a safer pick than those other two. But with Lamar Jackson, you have to worry about his health. You have to worry about grooming him to become a pocket quarterback.
I've seen Sam Darnold do. He's the guy from USC. He just reminds me like of the schmuck high school quarterback who thinks they're. I mean, I'm not saying that's who he is. Just when he comes across doing interviews, he just has that look or this persona, and maybe it's
He's a West Coast guy,
yeah.
And who was like that, and everybody hated was John Elway. Mm-hmm. John Elway was a West Coast
he's
guy.
Got a little bit of that.
He was a West Coast guy.
Arrogance, a little bit.
He was a Stanford guy. He got drafted by the Colts and said, "I'm not playing for the Colts. I won't play for him." And you know what he did? He went to the Yankees instead, and went to the Yankees. And then
see, Yankees are even screwing shit up for football.
Yeah, right. And then he eventually made his way out to Denver after he put on this big show. But Eli Manning did the same thing. Eli Manning said, "I'm not playing in San Diego," and because what a terrible place, San Diego, 75 degrees year round. Wouldn't play in San Diego. Told them if he got drafted by them, he would not play for them. Most of these kids that are in the draft are trying to do whatever they can to feed their families who are struggling. Eli Manning wasn't. He's from a rich family. So he just basically said, I'm not going to play for you if you draft me. And ended up not getting drafted there and going to ended up going to the Giants. Yeah. But San Diego, they couldn't screw around. They had already screwed up with Ryan Leaf, so they didn't want to.
Well, and San Diego I remember people talked about, and I've heard from people who played for San Diego, and they just said the ownership at the time was atrocious, and they treated their players like crap. So I mean, it wasn't just a money or a thing.
That's different.
There was a lot of issues with them, and if you could avoid going there,
Yeah, nobody wanted to play at that old stadium. That they've actually caused them to lose their team in San Diego. Now they're in Los Angeles, who is building this ginormous $2 billion facility for two teams,
which does not include any public money.
Yeah, well, who's paying for it?
The owner of the new owner of the Rams, I think it was, right? The Rams owner, yeah, the Rams, Sam Kroenke.
So what's he going to lease it to the Chargers?
Actually, yes.
He should make the Chargers just keep playing at that soccer field.
Yeah. That's absurd.
I think the Chargers are going to go back to San Diego. I think San Diego, it's not working out. They couldn't even sell out that 30,000 seat soccer stadium. The people of San Diego were pissed about it. San Diego fans are good fans, man. I mean, when they played here a couple times, they've had a lot of support. I saw them in Jacksonville once. They had a lot of support.
Do they bitch about the humidity?
Oh, yeah, because they're from California. Everything's better in California. The people that live here that are from California always tell us how much better it is in California. But for some reason, they're here.
Well, you know what? You know what they don't have in California?
What?
Well, it doesn't sound so great.
Red hats?
AK-47s.
Well, clearly they do.
Well, you're not allowed to possess one, so it's actually illegal to possess. So they have some for our gun rights people out there. They would not be moving to California. I don't know what I'd do without
one of them.
So I would be about 30 pounds lighter if not me personally, my luggage would be 30 pounds lighter moving to California. I'd have to leave some stuff behind.
Choose where you live, man.
Yeah,
they're all different. All the places are different.
And one more thing, just I get sidetracked about about that Josh Rosen thing. So he was supposed to go on. He had been scheduled to go on the radio today, and I don't know if it was necessarily about that. Mm-hmm. And his people pulled him off completely. So he was, and he would have had an opportunity. He was supposed to be on Dan Patrick.
You're talking about Allen, right?
Yeah.
Not Rosen.
Yeah, sorry, Josh Allen. Yeah, so he was supposed to be on radio and TV, doing all these interviews today, and they completely pulled it because I think like if he had just come on there and says, "Look, yes, I was 14, we're our friends, we joked around, I was on, like if you, I think people would understand, but I think I feel like." There's less of a character. Like I have more problems with his character because he didn't go on. And
he's panicking. He's panicking.
Confront it.
He doesn't know if he's going to say the wrong thing. His agent's probably telling him, "Hey, just stay away from it."
Or some dirty attorney who says, "Keep quiet."
Well, this is a hit job. I think. I really do think it's a hit job because the same thing happened a couple of years ago. Do you remember the guy that somebody tweeted something? Somebody
tongue stole or something.
Yeah, they hacked into his Twitter and admitted something from his past. And it was just this
gas mask. He had a gas mask doing a bong hit.
Yeah, doing a bong hit. That's exactly what it was. And it was like, it looked so bad because he had a gas mask on, and you're like, what's this guy involved in? And this is supposed to be the best day of this guy's life. Everything he's been doing since probably 6 years old has led up to this day, this great day where it's all the fruits of his labor is all going to culminate into this one great day. And somebody goes out and does that. And I think that's starting to happen more often. I don't know if it's teams and owners kind of like hardballing each other or if it has to do with the fans, but something like that coming out on the day of the draft, don't you think that's kind of peculiar?
That's probably an ex or something like that. That he's probably fooling around on somebody, and they always say there's nothing like a woman scorned.
That's true. That's true. It could be an ex.
Those kind of things because you got to think like if it was someone who was, even another team wouldn't do it because then you can't. It's like with this Josh Allen thing. They say well, maybe there's a team further down in the draft who leaked this out so that they're hoping his draft stock will fall.
Yeah.
But, like, with that player, like, first of all, I wouldn't want to play for a team. Like, if you somehow, like...
But you would never know.
You think you never know. But I'm just saying, like, if you found out...
Know who it was, if it leaks.
But,
things get leaked all the time. We never know who it is, like, even out of the White House.
Trump knows who they are because they get fired.
Yeah, it's whoever he doesn't like at the time, right? It's Comey.
He's a leaker.
Yeah. Well, apparently Trump's the leaker, but it's the golden shower leaker.
Listen, it's if the president releases it, there's no it's not confidential anymore.
Quit making pee jokes about the president making releases in hotel rooms. You're killing me.
Nothing's saying about hotel rooms. Good for you.
These pee jokes are so fun, though, man. Somebody gave me one the other day, and it had Trump's face on it, and said, "What's the difference between a garbanzo or a chickpea and a garbanzo?" And I'm thinking, I don't think there is a difference. I've looked into that. And he said, well, I've never had, or the president's never had a garbanzo in his face. So there's some
terrible.
fun with it.
That's a terrible.
I mean, I hope it didn't happen, but I kind of hope it did at the same time. It's kind of funny. But keeping on, we keep getting sidetracked, but we pull ourselves back as however hard it is. All right, so further on down the draft, you've got the Buccaneers.
So do you think the Bucs will draft a kicker this year?
I don't. We signed one. We signed a good one from the Jets. We don't have to do that.
Sure, we don't need a backup kicker? Maybe in the third round?
I think you're exaggerating how bad of a pick that was. That was the best kicker in college football history.
By percentage, not by distance. I don't believe he ever kicked a field goal over 50 yards.
Percentage is huge. It's consistency.
50. In the NFL,
well,
you need to be able to kick.
The coach never put him out there to kick him.
Well, you need to be able to kick 50-yard field goals.
He made the ones they put him out there to kick.
If he could kick a 50-yard field goal, they would have had him kick it.
Nah, I agree. It was a bad pick. I can't say I would have made the pick if I'd have known his percentage of kicks or number of kicks ever beyond 50 yards or at 50 or more. But what is it that Dirk Cutter says? You got to make your kicks from 40 and in or from 49 and in?
Well, that's only because his kicker couldn't kick him from further than that. That's why he said it.
Well, no, I think it's a good rule of thumb as a kicker is that everything that's 49 and in, you expect him to make it.
Well, yeah, you expect them.
Well, when you invest your money into someone, you expect them to make it. If they don't make
55, they should probably be 50% or more.
Ooh, I don't know about that. I think it depends on depending on conditions. If we're on turf, don't act like that doesn't matter.
If you're a real kicker, you should be able to make 50% of your 55 and ups. Or
in the snowstorm.
Well, I'm just saying, on average, you should be able to make 50% of those 55-yard kicks. Beyond 55, it's starting to get a little bit more dicey. I would like to know what
the percentage is of kickers kicking 55 yards or plus. If we have, can we get our researcher, Jeremy? We have an in-house researcher. If we could have Jeremy check that out, that'd be great. 55 or more, what's the percentage of kicks made?
What's Jeremy's last name?
Simmons.
Oh, okay.
Jeremy Simmons. Simons. Is it Simons or Simmons? I'm really sorry, Josh.
Josh?
He doesn't care. Get us some coffee. He's a putz.
Intern, get us some coffee.
he's such a putz. He's never going to amount to anything. Get those stats, man. Stat.
Well, if he'd only gone to Marshall, he might have a future. Instead, I think he scraped bite out there at the what we call the Stanford of the Marshall of the West at Stanford. So I'm not sure he really
the Marshall of Silicon.
Yes.
All right. Well, hey, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about some recent news and some other things going on. Maybe we'll talk some more about the draft. If you have your some input that you'd like to type it in, and we'll talk about it.
Maybe
within reason. So stick tight, folks. We'll be right back. All right, we're back, folks. That was a little Springtime by Donald Fagen, longtime member of Steely Dan. Sorry if we played that too long. If we get sued, it's my bad.
You're bad. They'll take all of our profit away here.
I know, right?
I think the thing on Spreaker is now up to maybe like 23 cents. But unfortunately, I don't get a check until we hit $10.
Ooh, it's coming. It's coming. But we don't have much more time left. I know you want to give us a little rundown on the Rays. This is Dan's Rays Rundown.
Yeah.
Brought to you by Peterson Cottage Cheese.
The Rays are not in last place anymore in the American League East. That position is taken away by the Baltimore Orioles, the stinky Orioles. Actually, the Rays are on a 5-game win streak. They are 9-13. I believe Chris Archer might be making the start tonight, and so we'll see if he can come up with a second good start. And the Rays are still pretty terrible, but they're not in last place, and they probably won't compete. But we're done.
The Rays are not in last place, folks. You can relax. We are going to win some games this year.
I think 120 games might be safe. I don't think we might not actually lose 120.
No, they're not going to. They're not that bad, but they're not going to win division. They're not going to go to the playoffs. But it's almost like save face, man. If you guys can just look respectful out there this year, then we're going to get you some big things in the future. We're going to build you a big old nice stadium over in Ybor City downtown. But you're probably not going to be around long enough to see it because we get rid of you very quickly. So it's more so to the fans.
Yeah. And then real quick, of course, the Lightning are moving on to the second round of the playoffs to face the Boston Bruins on Saturday.
Boston Bruins barely won last night. I mean, they won big because of the goals at the end, but it was a very close game. And I was hoping that we were going to play Toronto. I really was.
Toronto looked like they were going to win that game. At the end of the second period, Toronto was pretty well in control of the game. Boston looked like crap, and then the third period happened, and they gave up a couple easy goals, and then Toronto folded.
Boston. Dunkin' Donuts.
I know. That means Amalie Arena is going to smell a little.
We're going to have to impose
a little less fresh when the Boston fans are here.
We're going to have to impose those rules that we imposed a couple of years ago for Red Hawks fans. That you can't buy a ticket if you're from the other team.
But trust me, I'm sure they.
I like that. I think it's awesome. I wish the Bucs would do it. People go crazy around here though because, I mean, if you're not a Florida person, understand that it's not that our fans completely suck. It's that
we have too many other cool things to do.
Well, I don't even think it's so much that. As much as it is, I think everybody here is from somewhere different. I mean, I think a good 70% of the people that I meet here are from another city. And so they already had an allegiance to a team before they came here. And they kept that allegiance when they came here. And it makes them stand out now that they're here. So they don't have to go with the flow. When they go to their office and everybody's cheering for the Bucs, which is not happening, they can say, well, I'm a Pittsburgh Steeler fan because we grew up in Pittsburgh. And then you come to find out, it's like their dad lived in Pittsburgh for a year. And he was he worked in finance. You know, it's like he was a steel worker or something.
Yeah.
You know, so it makes them stand out. They don't want to be like everybody else, and plus they think the Bucs are crappy, so they don't want to root for a crappy team. But there's just for some reason people don't take to them. But the people who have lived here and who grew up here and was especially growing up during 2000s when they won the Super Bowl, those people are pretty hardcore Bucs fans. So we do have a solid base.
Yeah.
It grows when we win, but you know most people are just not from here, man. Wait till we play the Steelers on Monday night; it's going to be a blackout. Dude,
well, you know what it reminds me of. It's kind of like you moved up, you lived up north, you dated a girl for a while, right? And then you moved, right? So you said, all right, well, I'm moving. You're not moving with me. I'm not staying here, so we're going to end it, right? You move on. You find a new girl in your new home, right?
Right.
Instead, these people say, I really loved her back in Pittsburgh. I'm never going to find anyone like her down in Florida. And so they just stay and they just, they keep just drooling over what they lost and what they don't have anymore instead of moving on and enjoying what you have right in front of you.
Exactly. Like last week. Well, they're not, I mean, when they're not winning, it's like, okay, I understand, but you can still get behind the team and help us win. But they would rather cheer for the team back where they're from. And like when they announced the schedule just a couple of days ago, and we had a Monday night game with the Steelers. I saw everybody on there, posting people that live here.
The Steelers. They don't even know how to spell Steelers.
They'll tag their friend Todd. Todd, let's get tickets now. Come down. Let's make plans.
Let's stuff our face with cheesesteaks. And
you know what we ought to do for our Monday night uniforms?
And pretzels.
Is we should have a blackout so that you can't tell what the Steeler fans are. So all of our fans wear black, and so their fans wear black too.
Didn't Mr. Allen get in trouble for talking about this kind of stuff on Twitter?
A blackout? I'm not talking about like blackface. I'm talking about just like
the
shirts.
Right. I'm just making
like
clear.
What you're wearing would be completely appropriate right now.
Okay. That's all right. I wasn't sure where you were going with this. So.
Geez, the liberal PC police over there, Mr. PC principal. Speaking of liberalism and conservatism, there's some things going on that we're going to talk about here at the very end. We've kind of it's amazing how we've kind of pinched our show down so far on our political part, and I think you've been losing so many political arguments that you're trying to corner this your chances of losing to just like 3 minutes per show.
Our listeners know exactly about a bunch of phooey nonsense this is. Let's put a poll up right now for our listeners to see who.
Well, the White House doctor dropped out of the running to be the VA director today.
Because of all the rumors and all of the being spread by the Democrats, my understanding.
Actually, there's a lot of Republicans who feel like that he's not qualified to run 13 million people as well, just because he was a doctor to presidents. Why doesn't he vet these people?
Well, I don't know. Who was the Surgeon General?
The Surgeon General? I don't even think we've appointed a Surgeon General.
No. Back in the day, who was the?
There was.
Wasn't he like the White House doctor before he became the Surgeon General or something like that?
The Surgeon General and the Director of the VA are very different things. Let's be clear.
Well, what's his name is in charge of HUD.
I know that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
In front of HUD, you gotta. He's a doctor. He didn't even have, like at least like maybe if he was a contractor, and we put him in charge of HUD. Like he was a doctor and he's in charge of HUD. See, at least we have a doctor
Here's
being
the
put
thing.
in charge of the.
You're managing thousands of people. You're at the top of this pyramid managing thousands of people. And I understand that the Republicans don't want government to work, so they can say, hey, look, government doesn't work. We need less government. But when you blatantly put somebody in charge who has no experience whatsoever, but, I mean, can you really blame a president who has no government experience who is now the president and putting people who have no experience at their jobs either? But it's just kind of amazing. I mean, we've got a guy that sued the EPA as our EPA secretary. We've got a person who never went to public school ever in her life who is our Secretary of Education. We've got a surgeon as the Director of Housing and Urban Development strictly because he's black. That's the only reason he's there. What other reason could you possibly explain why he's there? And he grew up in the projects. I mean, some of these people... Can we vet them? Can we just put a couple of people in a position that are experienced in that area?
So this is the problem. I mean, with somewhat of the draining the swamp thing. So when you start taking away all of the people who've been in government and in charge of government, who you say are
people have experience
and all that kind of stuff, you're kind of left with people who are not government people.
But are still corrupt.
Allegedly.
That's the thing.
Allegedly. I mean, I was alleged. I was not saying that other people were corrupt.
This guy at Health and Human Resources, I mean, all this stuff coming out about him. He bought a $70,000 bulletproof desk.
Hey, listen, it's...
we're a new era of Ben Carson bought a $30,000 table and then blamed it on his wife. It's just... It's one after another every day. And it's so stupid. Today, when I heard Trump, he was talking to his Fox and friends, who he always talks to on an interview, on his call-in interview in the morning.
They're friends.
They are. They're Foxy and they're friends. But they were asking him, like, why not get someone more qualified? And this was his response. You could get the president of the largest hospital in the country, and still, that's small potatoes compared to managing 13 million people in the VA. So, ipso facto, nobody's qualified to do it. So why not have the least qualified person do it?
I'm sure there's less qualified people, like myself.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure he's the
least.
I don't know.
I don't think you are less qualified than him. You know why? You were the president of the Clearwater Bar Association, and you manage several several egos. You manage a lot of different things when you were there, and you weren't just a doctor. And I don't say it lightly.
I never actually
being
was a doctor.
Being a doctor is very impressive, but by all means, it doesn't give you management skills. Being a doctor, the president.
No, the same thing about being an attorney, because sometimes attorneys, we may make great attorneys, but not necessarily bosses or supervisors. So.
I had a boss one time. He's the best trial attorney I've ever seen. Probably the worst manager I ever saw. But man, he could do it. But because his trial skills were so good, he kept getting promoted up to the top so they could pay him more. And in order to justify paying him more, they made him like top management to manage everybody. And then it was just like, ooh, it was bad. But that being good at your job doesn't make you a good leader and to be able to lead other people in that job. That's for sure. Because having those management skills are important. But I think we've about reached our time, Dano. And I wanted to mention, too, that you are coming up on 100 pounds.
Getting there. 97 pounds so far.
Jeez, 97
another
pounds.
Another 5 pounds.
When you were at 80 pounds, I was at about 35. And now you're almost at 100, and I'm at like 36.
Wow.
So
it's a lot. Look, when you have like potentially 200 pounds that you can lose, obviously it's going to come off a little faster. So,
yeah. But you haven't. I mean, you've gone steadily down the whole time.
Yeah.
It's not. I mean, it might like sometimes kind of level out a little bit, just for a little bit, but. Every time I talk to you, it seems like it's like 4 or 5 pounds down. 4 or 5 pounds down.
That's my goal. And I'll tell you what, though. People talk about it. It's, my thing is like my willpower ends at the store. I have all of the willpower, most of the willpower in the world when I'm shopping, and I can put stuff back. I can not put it in my cart. I can do all that. If I buy it and bring it home, that's it. And so obviously there's other stuff, but when I say all. It's essentially been reducing my calories, eating better, and then you add in the exercise, and so there's nothing.
Well, you still
crazy
eat,
about
you still
this.
eat what you like. You just don't eat as much of it in those. Because like in this last night, you posted that you had those air fryer wings.
Yeah, boneless chicken wings.
But
over
with
fries.
the air fryer, you're not greasing them, so you don't have the grease.
Yeah, no breading, no frying.
No breading, no frying. So. You just run them in the sauce, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have French fries.
And it's just grilled chicken,
which is not your preferred. I know you like tater tots better, and your wings always should be placed on top of your tater tots. I've seen you have a hissy fit for that.
Easy there, no hissy fit.
Where's Quentin? Where's
Quentin?
Yeah,
I think Quentin signed off here.
You bum.
We almost got into an altercation if he wasn't a deputy.
That was the most hilarious lunch ever, by the way. But getting back, you've done it. You've done a really good job, and you could probably serve to help other people. And I know you're probably thinking, "Hey, slow down there." But there's a lot of people who don't have the will to do it because they think they can't, and they get to a size where they give up. But man, you did it all on your own.
Yeah.
And
you got to switch you got to flip that switch, and that's what it took. I mean, everybody in my life said, when my parents were alive, they were still, you really need to. And of course, I knew it.
Yeah.
But until you make that individual decision that you need to change your life.
Did you always know that you were going to do it at some point? But it's just like, the more I put it off, the further I'm going down this road, it's going to be harder.
Probably at one point, but then at some other points, you start saying, like when you get winded, when you walk around the block or around a building, you start to think, well, I don't know.
Yeah, my heart can't take it.
Yeah, and so you kind of give up a little bit more. And I think that's where people just have to, but like it was for me, it was just getting on the scale and seeing how much higher that number was, and thinking, and of course, just having watched or a little bit of 600-pound life, you're like,
that depresses me watching that. I can't even watch it, man.
Yeah.
They had to like bring people in forklifts and stuff and put them in bed, and they just sit there and eat.
Yeah,
and that's what fascinates me about it.
People enable them too.
Yeah, they do. There's always someone that goes and gets the food because their asses ain't going to the job.
Well,
they can't get in a car. They can't get out of the doorway. Can't get out of bed. And I saw one not too long ago where they were just laying in bed, and the guy just does like his exercises in bed. This is the best he can do, and they have to roll him over every day and wash him so it doesn't like rot. And
I mean, honestly, like when you're that large. it's not that hard to lose weight. I mean, the
Right.
hard part is the
It'll
addiction.
fall off, right.
They have an addiction, and
No,
that's really the issue.
It's real. It
It's
is
worse.
real.
I mean, it's like, because, we were talking about it. Like, I don't feel that way about food. Granted, I do like to eat, but these people, like, they say, like, it brings joy every bite, and all I can do after I finish breakfast, the only thing I can think about for the next 2 or 3 hours is, when is so and so going to bring me my lunch?
It's like it releases endorphins.
Yeah.
No, man, I was raised in an area that's considered the fattest area in the country. You've been in Huntington. It's considered the most unhealthy and fat area. It's a great area. There's a lot of good things about it, but diet is not its specialty.
No.
And so the people there eat culturally. They're getting better, but the culture is to fry everything. And
I think a pepperoni roll is like the official food.
It is
something.
A pepperoni roll. And if no one's ever heard of it, if any of you've never heard of a pepperoni roll, it's the most delicious thing you've had in the world. It's a bunch of dough with a little bit of cheese and some pepperoni stuffed into it. But that's kind of like, that's what you eat as a snack. Like, where somebody else might eat a granola bar or something. You just toss a couple of those down, And when you go to the gas station, they've got them right beside the cash register, and you throw down $20 for your gas, and here's an extra $2 for my 3 pepperoni rolls that I just bought. So it was always just everything was being planned between the next meal. It was like after we get done with this meal, we start planning for the next one. It's like almost kind of like a drug addict. It's like, where am I going to get my next high? And it kind of sucks that you live like that because you can't find enjoyment in other things in life, or if you can, you base all those things around food. Family, every family gathering is based around food. Every party is based around food, and we make food the biggest part of our lives that really brings us all together. And we got to get out of that culture, and we just have to realize that food is something that we have to survive, but not something that we need to have such excess of.
Yeah, and that's, and I got rid of all of the bad, like I said, I don't buy potato chips. I don't buy pretzels.
That's
I don't
great.
buy ice cream because I know if I buy it, I will eat it.
Yeah.
And I will not just have my one serving. I won't do it.
Yeah.
I'll have 3 or 4, even if because somebody says, oh, well, just take what you want and leave the rest of it in the refrigerator or leave it in the
it's hard for some people, man.
It's
I have
20 feet away. I'll just get back up and get more.
I honestly feel like I had a very bad food addiction, but what really helped it was when I changed my diet. There were times where I didn't like it, but I've never had to starve myself on the keto diet because I can always eat things that fill me up. But I don't eat as often, and it's really suppressed my hunger, and I don't kind of fantasize about eating as much as I used to.
That leaves more time to fantasize about other stuff.
Exactly, and that's good, man. That's good. And now, as strangely as it sounds, I fantasize about exercising. I really do. Like I'm almost fanatical about having to get my 9,000 steps in every day. And it doesn't sound
9,000,
like a lot.
No wonder you haven't lost 100 pounds.
Hey,
only doing 9,000.
It doesn't sound like a lot, but to do it every day, because yesterday I was really disappointed in myself. I only got about 6,000 steps because I had to host trivia, and I'm up there walking in place while I'm hosting trivia, and they're like, "What are you doing, man? Why are you dancing? Like, what's wrong with you? Are you drunk?" And
I'm the dancing queen.
I gotta get.
Is that what you said?
I said it's raining, man. I had to get my steps in, man. So that being said, I've got a host tonight. If you're listening and you'd like to come out tonight, we are at Caledonia Brewing in downtown Dunedin, and we are hosting an all music trivia. And tonight's theme is Women Who Rock. So it's going to be Women Rock. Yeah, maybe. You have to come check it out. It's free to play. We've got some great prizes. It's going to be a special night. All kinds of fun stuff going on. So come down to Caledonia Brewing down on Main Street in downtown Dunedin tonight at 8 o'clock. We are going to be having a blast.
And speaking of Dunedin, I might be going, I think the Blue Jays might be having a bark in the park, the Dunedin Blue Jays this weekend. So
are they going to ring the doorbell during the game like they used to? They used to do that. They'd ring the doorbell during the game on the loudspeaker, and all the dogs get crazy.
I don't even think my dogs, they've heard a doorbell, but like I've never actually had a doorbell where I
think dogs are naturally just programmed to go crazy with doorbells. I don't know what it is. But, well, have fun. They're also having Wing Festival over there.
At the same thing?
Not the same event, but at the Race Blue Jay Stadium.
Yeah, I can't do those wings just get me. Because I want to eat,
carbs,
I want to eat too many of them, though.
No carbs, but they do. They have like 200 calories per wing.
Yeah, well, see, that's the thing. When you get them with skin and you fry them,
Yeah, there are a lot of
Wait.
calories. Luckily for me, they don't have carbs in them,
Yeah.
so I can moderately eat them. But if I have 10 wings, that's like 3/4 of my. That's probably my whole calorie intake for the day. So.
Yeah. Well, that's the great thing about the boneless is because really, essentially, it's just grilled chicken breast
Yeah, it's not a wing.
that you've.
I hate that concept.
Yeah.
It's a boneless chicken wing. Oh,
Yeah.
what? No, it's not.
It's just
so you
boneless
took
chicken chunks.
you took the meat off of that wing, and then you pushed it all together, and then you breaded it. Like, wow, you productive bastard! Like that's got to cost me like $20 per chicken. Yeah, boneless chicken wing. I'd like to see that chicken. All right, hey, we'll see you next time. Same bat time, same channel.